I'm continuing my series of Masterette reviews with Season 2, Episode 19, Operation Noselift. So, the premise of this episode is that there's a private at the camp who is very insecure about his nose. He believes it's too big and he goes AWOL. He's constantly looking for a hospital or someplace that will perform a nose job, so perform plastic surgery. So that way he will feel more comfortable with it. So, Hawkeye has a friend from back in residency who's currently a major in Tokyo who performs plastic surgery. He gets him to come to the 477 to perform the surgery. Of course, he does trick by saying there's a nurse with a nickname the Barracuda, because this plastic surgeon, who is basically, he has a very high libido, let's put it that way. And weirdly enough, this character is played by an actor who appeared in another episode, and there's some unsettling, uncomfortable similarities with that character. Both characters put themselves on Margaret despite she rejecting the advances. And it's just really uncomfortable and all that. I really wish there was a different way or all that. And literally, it's just a very uncomfortable scene where the plastic surgeon does, try to push himself on Margaret despite her clearly not wanting it. And yeah, remember, kids, a yes is a yes, a no is a no, and anything that isn't definitively a accepting of consent is a no. Just remember that. So, yeah, that's the biggest problem with this episode. The fact that this plastic surgeon is, willing to, put himself out there and not really listen to a nurse when she says no. And he faces no consequences for it. This is a common thing in the early seasons of MASH, especially where, the nurses are just small props in terms of the storytelling for the guys rather than anything else. Very common. I really wish they would have, treated the nurses more as actual characters. They've done that a little bit with Margaret, but it's really not until later seasons where they start really treating the nurses as characters in their own right. But unfortunately, that's not this episode. But the good thing is the soldier, he does get his nose job so that way he can feel more comfortable in his own body. Is that anything like gender from Kale? Just saying. Not quite, because they're not really reaffirming his own gender, but they are basically making him more comfortable in his own body in the way that it's not going to be impacting his mental health or his morale. So now maybe he can actually do his job because he's not distracted with his own insecurities regarding his nose. So that's actually a really good message when you think about it. But everything with the plastic surgeon and his behavior, nope, not at all. I'm not a big fan of. But I did kind of like the scene after where Hawkeye gets him to actually finally go to perform the surgery, where Chopper comforts Margaret. Now, he does put on a fake Southern accent, but it's actually showing that Hawkeye and Chopper do care about Margaret to a little degree. I do feel like they get better at that stuff once they get BJ involved and Chopper's gone, but Chopper does comfort Margaret, and Margaret does accept the comfort. It's, platonic comfort, but it's when Margaret needed that moment. But that's the only good thing about the scene, is showing that, Chopper giving Margaret, the opportunity to, de-stress, to, feel some comfort in a more safe, which is weird saying that about Chopper because, he is a serial daughter after all, but at least that part of it is okay-ish, but again, I'm not really comfortable with that entire plot point. But what's actually funny? The fact that Henry just does not want to know what's going on at all regarding the plastic surgery being performed. And yeah, it's like, he tells Raider to make a note that he wasn't there today, and of course, when Raider asks who should sign it and all that, he says, you sign in my name, and then that way I can say it's a forgery. It's like, just craziness. that stuff with Henry and Radar, that was funny. That was good. When Frank comes in again to speak with Henry, again, that was a funny scene because Frank is doesn't know why he's there. Henry didn't actually call for him, and Henry's like, I'm not here, I'm not there, kind of deal. It's just funny. And of course, I do want to real quick mention the beginning of the episode where Henry is where Henry is dictating a letter to Radar, and you think it might be a reference to the report that Margaret would have sent after the end of the last episode because of the way it opened, but it's about a totally different thing that both Frank and Margaret are reporting Henry for. But it's like they could have so easily built off of last week's episode, but they didn't, and that's frustrating. But continuity is not a thing in Only Match. It's barely a thing in the later episodes when they get a little bit better about it, but that's alright. But it would be a neat connection that could have shown a through line, but they didn't. They chose to make up a new scenario instead. But on that topic, there is actually one other line that Frank said where he mentioned that this entire thing going on with the plastic surgeon and performing a Noselift illegally because it's not allowed in a combat zone, that he'll include that in his weekly anonymous report to the general. Frank, it's not anonymous if everyone knows it's coming from you. But that's Frank. So, like I said, there's some good stuff in this episode, but some really uncomfortable stuff that I wish they could have played a little bit better, but it's weirdly a product of its time, both the time when the show was made and the time when the show was set. But I do wish they had done it slightly differently to have more pushback on the uncomfortable parts of the episode, and they really didn't do that. They really kind of failed to do that in a lot of regards. But that's the way it is, and I want to hear your thoughts on the episode Operation Noselift in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you, always.